Mark?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Connie. Uh, it's a pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of uh, our department. Good afternoon. Um, our department has grown considerably. I've taught at United Tribes in the Criminal Justice Department for 8.5 years now, and in those early days, it was two of us, two faculty members, and we're now up to four full-time faculty members. So when students come to us, typically they begin work on their associate's degree. So they take pretty much the same general education courses as they would if they would go to Minot State or North Dakota State or University of Mary. They take their composition 1 and 2, public speaking, intro to sociology, intro to psychology, humanities, intro to computers, math, a lab science is now required for an associate's degree. Pretty basic stuff, but we make sure that that every semester, including their first semester, they're always in a criminal justice course. So you begin your first semester, you have a lot of these gen eds, but you'll also have intro to criminal justice, because we want students to be connected to their advisor, and your advisor would be one of the four criminal justice faculty, and connected to your program of study. So you'll take intro to CJ first. You might even take a second criminal justice course. Your first semester, you might take Homeland Security or criminal law, and that kind of leads me into the criminal justice curriculum. You know, I was thinking about this presentation earlier this morning, and I'm dating myself, but I earned my bachelor's degree in the year 2000. I graduated from Minot State, and then a few years later, I earned a master's degree in criminal justice from Minot State. And so if you think of that, the year 2000, that was before September 11th, the September 11th attacks took place. And so when I was in college, there were no Homeland Security courses. There were no classes devoted to emergency response per se, or terrorism. And now one of them, right at the beginning, is Intro to Homeland Security. And you know, we do cover a lot more than threats and harm posed by terrorism. We cover a lot of things, everything from natural disasters to man-made things. But it's evident how curriculum changes uh, with events that are going on in society, right? And so criminal justice has to respond to what society uh, frankly throws at it. You know, when I was in college, there was a fairly new course in the criminal justice curriculum. It was family violence. At that time, victimology was an elective. Now, victimology is a required. So as an associate student, you start with intro crim law, intro to Homeland Security, ethics in criminal justice, and then you go on to criminal investigations. We have a weapons class that's offered in the summer, um, and it can only be offered in the summer because it includes outdoor activity such as actual time at a rifle range, and it's not training per se. It's like an introduction to weapons, which honestly I think is a good idea for everybody to at least have an introductory course: gun safety, cleaning, firearms, and things of that nature. But if you're just not a firearms person, it's not a required class. You can take traffic law in lieu of the weapons class, and maybe you just don't want to take summer school either. I've got a couple screens open here, and I've got our degree plan up. You take a course in juvenile justice, and like I said, ethics. Ethics is a huge thing for people that work in public service professions. So we have a 200 level ethics, and then if you go on to your bachelor's degree, we have a second ethics with a higher order material, more in-depth scenarios. So we do two ethics classes. So if you come to us, you earn your associate's degree, and typically that's done in 4 semesters. Some people, take 5. Um, but it really, it's up to you how aggressively you pursue your coursework. Most people take 15 credits a semester. Some take 16. And there's a little benefit to that. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed, you do have the ability or the option to drop a class. But students need to be at 12 credits for full-time purposes. We always encourage people to move on to their bachelor's degree, because I can tell you this: an associate's degree is a pretty good degree for entry level jobs, for getting your foot in the door. But I always tell people, no matter what part of criminal justice they would like to advance in, or if they want to supervise someday, that bachelor's degree is basically going to be uh, the sheepskin that you'll need for that. So after the associate's degree, you move forward to the bachelor's. You take classes that are more specific in criminal justice, classes like I'd mentioned: victimology, community policing, um, an upper division ethics class, a criminology class, in which we examine some of the major theories and schools of thought as to why people engage in the actions that they do, which is, why do people break the law? There's a forensics course, evidence and procedure, criminal evidence and procedure, I should say, administration and criminal justice, there constitutional law. There's a courts class, because the reality is that the system is made up of 3 components: law enforcement, courts, and corrections. And if people don't get arrested, they don't get to the courtroom. And if they get to the courtroom but they're not convicted, then they don't get to the Department of Corrections. And so we have a number of courses that expose students to all of the realities of what comprise the system. There's also a course in white collar crime, um, which I believe is necessary, because we think about crime, and we think about violence, and we think about things that happen on the streets. And the reality is, if you look at the dollar amount in terms of cost, white collar crime, which means people embezzling from their employer, or the grocery store selling you peanut butter for 50 cents higher than what it's advertised or listed for on the shelf, that's a form of victimization. And that victimization, um, a lot of times it's electronic. It's not as if someone sticks a weapon in your face, but every time you overpay or are overcharged for something, you're a victim. And some criminal justice programs kind of neglect that. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, we added white collar crime. Then there's a research methods class, which we're always preparing students for the next degree. So if any of you, I always tell bachelor students as they get close to graduating, they really should consider graduate school. A master's degree is a really valuable tool. It enables you to do so much more in the field, and potentially one day, once you have some experience, if you so decide you would like to teach, it opens that door. And then we have a senior seminar class, which it's like a capstone. It's the one class we don't have a book for. We sort of cover a broad variety of topics, and I usually teach that class, and I try to focus on the things that it seems we don't have enough time to go in depth with most of our regular or our other curriculum. Connie and I were visiting yesterday. Connie was a guest speaker in 2 of my classes. And by the way, I want to recognize Connie. She does an excellent job helping people work on resumes and prepare for that transition from academics to employment, because there, and I found this out both times I graduated, that transition can be a bit challenging without someone like Connie with you, because I learned that success in the classroom and high grades doesn't necessarily equate with a ton of job interviews once you're out of the chute, so to say. And we were talking about how people really explore during their college years. And for example, corrections just isn't for some people. Some people really like it. They do well in it. A lot of people use it to get some experience and move on. Uh, but it can be very tough emotionally, and I would say that even more so than police work itself. And also there's areas with we now have victim witness uh, advocates that assist someone in people in coordinating and preparing to either testify or to navigate the world of victim services. And I'll wrap up here shortly, but I want the people on this webinar to know that you know about 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of people came to criminal justice and they wanted to be a police officer. And there was this kind of misconception that that's what everybody wants to do and that's all you do with a criminal justice degree. Well, nowadays, our world has changed so much. We rely on community corrections to supervise a lot of people on probation that continue they don't go to jail. They meet the requirements the court has imposed on them while they're living in the community. 20 years ago, we didn't have advocates for victims and witnesses. So there's just a ton of opportunities available for people both in the public and private sector with criminal justice degrees. So please don't feel like you're confined to law enforcement. And I've had a number of students go on to law school. Criminal justice is a excellent training ground to prepare someone to start a career, to go to law school, to practice law. So there's an endless amount of things to do. I just encourage people that when they start, stick with it, because once a student leaves the program for a year or two, the degree plan can change, and then sometimes people end up having to take additional classes. But as long as you're a student with us semester to semester, you're on the same academic plan. The one you start on is the one you graduate on. So I hope we see some fresh new faces in our program this fall. And thank you for being here today. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you, Mark. Really good information. The criminal justice program is very hands-on, and I know that a lot of students look for that. So you will enjoy that experience.